Hello friends, in this video we are going to learn about border layout in Java AWT component. So border layout is actually a container. So in this example we are going to create 5 buttons, AWT buttons. Then we will see how border layout manager organizes those 5 buttons. So this will help you to understand the border layout manager. So as usual, there is a prerequisite. So here we are using the frame window which was created in the very first video of this series. So this is the video reference. Alright, now we will look about AWT border layout managers in Java. The border layout manager class of Java AWT maintains 5 predefined locations for the components. So since we told predefined location, these locations are already defined and it occupies a specific portion inside the container. So we know that the container will make use of the manager and it asks the manager to organize the controls added to the container. So say for example, our frame window is a container. So when frame window employs border layout manager to organize the control added to the frame window. So that time this border layout manager tells the frame window that I have 5 predefined position. Where do you want to add the controls? So the locations are north, south, east and west. So they are usually located at the corner of the container. So whether it is a dialog or frame window, north, south, east, west defines 4 corners of the window or 4 edges of the window. Instead of corner, it's more useful, more correct to say edge. So there are south edge, north edge, east and west edges. So once we define 4 edges, there will be a remaining portion, right? So that portion is what called the center location. So here you can see there is a 4 edge, north, south, and you can see their location east and west, and the remaining portion is given to the location center. So usually the center location is the big area, then north, east, south and west occupies a smaller portion. But anyhow, by setting the size of the component that you add to the edge, the size may grow. So each location can hold one component in it. That means only one component you can add to these 5 predefined locations. The layout is useful to create scroll bars. So you can see that, so if you add a scroll bar towards west, then you can scroll the content in the center vertically. Similarly, if you add towards south, you can scroll the content horizontally. So the well-known location for the scroll bars are west and south. You can still use east and north, but that's not the standard. Alright, so while we resize the container which is employing this border layout, the corner component maintains its size and position just like a scroll bar. So if you take any Windows application, the size of the scroll bar won't change, but the content it scroll will change when you resize the window. The same applies here. The components added towards the edges of the container won't change, but the center content will change. So border layout is the default manager for AWT frame window. Alright, now let us look at the example. Here if you see, we are we are creating 5 buttons. Then we are holding the reference button 1, button 2 through button 5. Also we are naming the button as north, south, east, west and center. After that we are adding these button components to the layout manager. And if you see here, we are not making call to setLayout method because the border layout is the default for our frame window. Alright, the code snippet 1 and 2 we are going to call through the frame window class. So we are not setting the layout here because the border layout is the default for a frame window. Alright, now when we are adding the components to the container, we are specifying the location. If you see, the very first location is the very first parameter is the location. In the first 4 line, we specify the location based on the constant from border layout class itself. Here we specified the constants from border layout: north, south, east and west. After that we actually pass the parameter, which is actually a component. Here the component is the button component. You can add any component like a checkbox, radio buttons. So, and there are other components also which we will see in the coming videos. Next, fifth, we are adding the button 5, and this time instead of specifying the constant we specified the string literal. So you can either use BorderLayout.center or center specified within double quote. That means you can specify a string or you can specify a constant from a border layout. That means if you replace the very first statement, let us take for example BorderLayout.north, you can replace that as north within double quote. So you can use any one of these notation. So either you can pass the constant or you can pass a string literal. Alright, so once you add all these 5 components, that means all 5 buttons, they will look like this: north, east, south, west. You can see the button with label, and the remaining portion is given to the center, and the button center is added towards the center of the container. Now let us go to Eclipse for the demo. So here is our Eclipse. So first we create 5 buttons, and label we give north, south, east, west and center, so that we can easily see which button goes and where it is sitting. After this, as we saw in the slide, we are adding these 5 buttons to our frame window. So we are doing this in the constructor. So here we used the constant. So you can read a descriptive text here. It shows that the north layout constraint, top of the container. So it's just a constant, and ultimately it is going to represent a string north. That's why you can either specify this constant or you can directly specify that a string constant. Alright, now we will execute this. So you can see that all components are seated here inside the container. North button, since we specified btn1 label is north and we specified the north location, so the button goes and sits here. So this is the north, and then this one is south, west and east. If you see here, we doesn't specify any size here. The size is determined by how much space is required to create the button. Since the label here is west, so the BorderLayout Manager knows that what is the width of the button. Why? Because to show the label, it needs this much width. So that's all it requires, the space here. Similarly, here the height is decided by the text which we specify here. Now, if I resize this component, you can notice that all component in the, all control or component in the border maintains same size. Let me resize it. So you can see that all are maintaining its same size, but the center button is resized along with the form, right? So you can click the button, all that. So this is just a demo. Usually people will place scrollable content here, let's say a multi-line text box, then either one component east or south with a scroll bar, or there are other layouts are possible. We will learn that in the next coming video. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.